Good morning. It's Deacon Don. This reflection is for Friday, October 30th, 2020. These days are flying by. I don't know about you. Before you know it, it's going to be Christmas, which is a good thing. But today I want to spend a few minutes with you and talk to you about barriers and limitations in our lives. And that barriers and limitations really don't exist when we talk about our relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. In our human world, we often find ourselves constantly facing barriers or limitations, those things that are there, they're there to protect us in many respects. They're good things. Things like speed limit laws or safety precaution laws or things of that nature, because we as human beings really sometimes don't do that well ourselves. We just don't seem to control our behavior themselves because we're human. And they're there to protect us, so it's a good thing. But there are some barriers and limitations that aren't good at all. And when we look at prejudice, racism, social injustice, um, fear, family discord, things of that nature, those are the type of barriers that are not good. But unfortunately, we have them as well because we're human, don't we? Some barriers are meant to keep people out. Some barriers are meant to keep people in. Some barriers are forced upon us, and some barriers we create ourselves. And that's what I want to talk about today. In today's gospel from Luke, Jesus is dining on the Sabbath with Pharisees. And of course, they're always probing and testing him, and he's there with them. And at dinner, there was a man who was suffering from dropsy. Now, dropsy is a swelling of the soft tissues of the body because of an excess of water. You see it in your face, in your hands, in your ankles, for a variety of different reasons, even in your chest cavity, which is really serious. And it's caused by edema or even congestive heart failure. This gentleman was sick. So Jesus asks the Pharisees a question: is it lawful to cure on the Sabbath or not? And not surprising, they didn't answer him. So Jesus healed the man in front of them. Then he said to the Pharisees, "Who among you, if your son or ox falls into a cistern, would not immediately pull him out, even on the Sabbath day?" Again, there wasn't any answer. The message here is that it reflected the barriers of love and common sense that the Jews often built around their religious practices at the time. They created barriers so it wasn't so easy to care for each other, and Jesus was trying to make a point about that. But that message is also directed to us. It also represents the barriers or walls or limitations that we create ourselves between ourselves and others, and that we create ourselves between ourselves and God. And that limits when and how we love each other, doesn't it? Those barriers can be caused for a number of different reasons: fear, guilt, shame, doubt, stress, a hurtful situation, a hurtful experience that you may have had, a loss of a loved one, or even the simple and silly reason that we're just too busy to work on our relationship with Jesus Christ. And, we put up a wall. Jesus made it his mission to remove barriers and walls between people, to show that there were no limits to love and care for each other or between him and us. In Ephesians chapter 2, there's an interesting quote. It says, "For he himself is our peace, who made both groups into one and broke down the barrier of the dividing wall." So for just a moment, think of those barriers or limitations that you have in your own life between yourselves and others and between yourselves and Jesus, and find a way of how it can be removed to both your benefits. I always like the painting of Jesus who's knocking on the door. I don't know if you know that painting, But the strange thing about the door is that there's no handle on the outside. Jesus can't open it. All he can do is offer and knock. It can only be opened by someone inside the house. It tells you a very big message. It tells us that God never ceases to reach out and try to get us, or to reach out to us, or to find us, or to love us. But unless we open our hearts, he can't get in. But if we let ourselves and the world define our parameters and our limits that we often do, it causes us so much needless emotional pain and stress and loneliness if we don't let God in. If we listen to the naysayers or even ourselves that say you can't do it, instead of opening the door that Jesus is standing on the other side of, we will suffer because of it. And we often do, unfortunately. There's a beautiful line in Mark's gospel. It's pretty simple. It's when the two women go to the tomb searching to care for the body of Jesus. And instead they say, looking up, they saw that the stone had been rolled away, although it was extremely large. What is that telling us? Listen for Jesus, who's trying to get to you through the Mass, through sacraments. But usually it's through private prayer, one-on-one, quiet. And that's when you strengthen your relationship with Jesus Christ. That's when you can open the door, because that's when he's knocking to get to you. When that happens, answer him and ask him to remove that big stone, no matter how large it may be. Friends, if we decide to be able to remove the barriers and walls and limitations that we've placed in our own lives, we will be so much happier when we make that relationship with Jesus Christ that much richer. And as our dear bishop says, nothing is impossible with God, especially if we try. Have a great day, and God bless.